Funny in the Morning on Sirius XM's Raw Dog. Here's Sonny Fox.
Thank you. You know, this is the last Funny in the Morning show. If you didn't know that already, it is. And among other things on the show this morning, we're featuring the best of the co-hosts over the many years. And when I sat down and tried to pick them out, it was really tough coming up with 12 of them. Down in Florida is a fella I asked to come on the show. My very first partner back in WYSP in Philadelphia, Bob Leonard. Good morning, Bob.
Hey, Sonny. Nice to talk to you after 37 years.
No, you had to say how long it's been, didn't you?
You don't sound any different.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, my cracky. I was just playing I played a clip from a Bowie interview, and both my wife and Aaron said, boy, you sounded funny back then. You know.
So you've been practicing for years. We had a lot of fun back in Philadelphia, but we didn't have a clue what the fuck we were doing.
No, not at all.
So nothing's changed?
No, nothing. And let me just say that, everything that we did was unique from the standpoint that we really didn't have a clue. I mean, show prep, what was that? We went in each day, and whatever happened, and it turned out to happen okay.
Yeah, well, every morning, it started out with Bob hating me because we lived in Philly. He had to drive through the snowdrifts to get to the station. And I had to walk out in the living room in my bathrobe and turn on the fireplace and make some coffee.
Yeah, an hour after the show started.
Why did you have to say that? I had to brush my teeth and whatnot.
Right, it took you an hour to brush your teeth.
And I
also knew what sounds to listen for, so I knew when not to turn your microphone on.
Oh, yeah, right. Oh, yeah, because he turned it on and off on that end, because I would forget, and
that's right.
There's a lot of sniffling.
You had to leave it on your end. Let me just say that when I met you, I had been working for another radio station, had been trying to be a disc jockey.
Right.
I was learning how to puke and talk like this, and it was bizarre. I was working at a station in Philadelphia called Magic. And I had been their first morning man, and I wanted to get out of there. I knew I'd never make any more money than I was making there. They told me that. And so I called two people. I called WIP, and I called you. And you called me back. And then we went out for I'm going to tell them what the interview was like. When we got into your Corvette, we smoked a joint, and you hired me. And it was like, it's like, okay, man, I want this job. And then you called me in your office about a week, maybe a month later, and you said, have you ever heard of Bob and Ray? And I looked at you, and my mouth dropped. I said, man, let's do it.
Oh, yeah.
And everything was experimental from there. I mean, it was a gas. It was really fun.
Lee Abrams reminded me a couple of years ago that I didn't even realize this. We were the first two-man morning show in rock radio.
Ever.
What year was that?
Ever.
Was it 77 or 8?
It was 76. I had gone to Magic in 75, so 76. I had been there about 6 months to a year. I said, this isn't for me. And when you said Bob and Ray, and I still didn't really know what to do, and we just sort of played with it. Lee also called us the prototype for the morning zoo format.
Oh, sure. Because we just screwed around.
Because, no one had been doing that. FM radio was brand new. They were whispering on WMMR talking about, that's Leonard Skinner. And we came on and said, fuck that, man. Well, let's be funny. Let's have some fun.
Oh, yeah.
We brought in the story lady. We had the whole Mel Blanc package, and we just had a good time with it.
And I did a sped-up voice called George Gump, my alter ego, who is very hard to explain.
We used the sped up concept for a commercial we did. That was back in the days when there was a very famous commercial for a program called the Evelyn Wood Speed Reading Course.
Right.
And we did the Evelyn Could Speed Talking Course. And you were the announcer, and I sped up my voice, and you'd say, if you're a politician or a fireman or anybody who's got, say it twice as much in half the time. And we would speed me up making a little speech or something. It was really stupid. And let me just say, despite all of the so-called inroads that we made, I kept no air checks of the show. And one day, probably maybe 25, 30 years ago, I found a tape. And I put it in, and I went, my God, what a piece of shit that was.
I know.
Why would anybody listen to that?
Now listen, Bob Leonard's the guy I'm talking to, my very first partner. I want you to hang in there. I want to come back. On the phone, if you just joined us, is my very first radio partner, Bob Leonard, who was on the air with me at WYSP in Philadelphia. He tells me 1976. I'm glad I don't remember much about what year it was or what we were doing, actually.
I think Bob has told you a lot of things over the years that you didn't know unless he told you.
What I can remember, I've told you.
Right. Well, one of the things we did, we had a TV show that was on.
Yes.
And I know it was about special effects or about movies, right?
Movies. We did a show about special effects,
right?
And we did a show about Ray Harryhausen and special effects, and we also did a Mel Brooks show.
Right. By the way, the picture on your Facebook of Mel Brooks and you.
Yeah, me kissing Mel Brooks.
Right.
We did the interview at your house.
Right.
And my dad was a big Mel Brooks fan, and I told him we were going to be talking with him, and he said, "Give him a kiss for me." So I said, "Mel, my dad wants me to give you a kiss and Jew's kiss. Come over here." And when I kissed him, somebody took the shot, and yes, that's my Facebook, because he lends more credibility than just me. People will look and go, "Oh, there's Mel Brooks. Who's the other guy?"
Right. Let's go to the Facebook.
Same man kissing him.
Yeah, Mel Brooks' Facebook page. Well, one of the things they did to promote the radio show was they actually filmed a 35 millimeter trailer and ran it in the movie theaters, right?
In 3 states, the
right.
whole in the Sam Eric chain in 3 states. Yeah,
right. And we couldn't think of anything to do, so I went with a tried and true old. I was sitting there, we were talking. Hey, joined us in the morning. And what was I asked you what time it was, or
you asked me what time it was, and I had my watch on upside down, and I was holding a cup of coffee. And as I turned it over to look to see what time it was, I spilled the coffee in your lap, and you had a trash bag in your lap. So we were able to do a number of takes without having to change you every time we had to do it.
Right. Yeah, I had to get that certain surprised look on my face.
Yeah.
But I've often wondered just how much of a stretch that was. Who would wear their watch facing down?
Right. It was a bit of a stretch, but it worked. You know, people talk about the inroads we made and how we were pioneers. I was just having fun every day.
Oh, sure. I think
I wasn't.
But the thing of it is, though, you just hit it right on the head. That's why it was innovative. We weren't disc jockeys.
Sure.
We weren't disc jockeys. Everyone was so tired of hearing disc jockeys. And even over at the so-called other rock station, the album rock station, they were so serious about, that's the Grateful Dead recorded in 78 at the Congress.
Yeah, and we just said, let's have some fun. Fuck that, man. Let's have fun. This is a fun job.
Yeah, you can enjoy the music. You can enjoy the music and have fun in between the records,
Exactly. And the music was great. I mean, it was the first time that they were taking rock albums and going 4 or 5 deep into the album, playing 3, 4, 5 cuts off the album.
Right.
Nobody was doing that. And that was Lee, obviously. But, I mean, all I did was pick a card, and it said, okay, play A2, cut 3. So I'd pull out A2 and put it on cut 3. And because they were records, I'd hope I'd have it on the right song. Well, because there were some times when I wasn't quite sure what song we were playing.
This is also the first job I ever had that I got fired from.
Yeah, me too.
I went out to the Billboard convention. And had such a good time. I stayed a few hours.
What's the Billboard convention?
Well, it's all the radio stations and the artists get together, and they have seminars, and they have performances.
Oh, Billboard magazine.
Right, Billboard magazine.
Where was that?
In Los Angeles. And I flew out there, and I had a great time. But then one day, the door knocked in my hotel room. I opened the door. It was John Belushi. Mm-hmm. And he says, "Can I use your phone?" So I said, "Well, don't you have one in your room?" He goes, "Yeah, I locked myself out of my room." And he walks in, and Dan Aykroyd's behind him. Uh-huh. And so they walk into my room, sit down, and he's calling, and he instantly lay out a few lines. He was doing drugs in those days. And one thing led to another, and I stayed 3 more days. Oh. And they said, "Well, Mr. Fox, you're supposed to be the program director. You're fired." So
there's a lot of details in the one thing led to another. I think there's a lot of great stories there.
Bob, it's been a real pleasure talking to you. I'm going to see you. We're coming down in the first week or 2 of December. And
I can't wait to see you, man. It's going to be good to see you. It's been a long time.
Bob Leonard, it's been a pleasure. And say hello to Marina for me.
I will. And Janet, good to talk to you again.
I
can't wait to see you guys when you get down here. I'm looking forward to it.
All right.
Take good care.
Thanks for having me on the show. It's been an honor, man.